All right, anything else?
No, thank you.
Okay. Item 6.
Thank you.
Approval of board policies and objectives. 6.1 is policy 934, Title 9 revised, second reading. Have a motion.
Second.
Comments or questions? Roll call.
Mr. Condon? Ms. Holland? Mrs. Oshauer? Ms. Paul? Mr. Anderson? Dr. Kerrigan? Ms. Kashkarian? Dr. Griffin?
All right. Our 6.2, policy 939, we're going to hold that one. Item 7 is approval of financials. 7.1 is resolution approving and ratifying bills, authorizing budget transfers, and accepting monthly financial reports.
Second.
Comments or questions?
Just a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
On our board portal, where all of this stuff is listed, probably some new person that's posting them to the board portal, can we maybe be consistent in how we're putting the information on there? Up until this month, it always identifies the date of the board meeting first, and then whatever it is. And this last month, there's a bunch of words, and the date's buried somewhere in that identifier, so if we can maybe make them consistent.
We'll do that. Thank you.
Roll.
Mr. Condon?
Aye.
Ms. Holland?
Aye.
Mrs. Oshauer?
Aye.
Ms. Paul?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Dr. Kerrigan?
Aye.
Ms. Kashkarian? Dr. Griffin?
All right. 7.2 is the authorization to file the fiscal year 2016 audit.
So moved.
Comments or questions?
I think Ken should be congratulated on a very clean and nice looking audit. And thank you and your staff for all the hard work you've done.
Thank you.
Very good. Roll call.
Mr. Condon?
Aye.
Ms. Holland?
Aye.
Mrs. Oshauer?
Aye.
Ms. Paul?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Dr. Kerrigan?
Aye.
Ms. Kashkarian? Dr. Griffin?
All right. 7.3 is the reauthorization authorizing authorizing a transfer of O&M fund restricted to the CLC Foundation Fund. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Comments?
I'll just make one comment. This is what we talked about with you in terms of launching that promise. There was one request from the board to look at the amount, and we altered that downward accordingly. From 600 to 550.
Yeah, as I'm looking at the verbiage that are in here, it seems to me that maybe we have not identified the public act that we're trying to be in compliance with. And I know there was some other questions on the audit just now as well. And I guess also, knowing that next month we're going to be having this training session, I'm wondering if we wouldn't be more prudent to just maybe hold this until after we all hear whatever the changes in the legislation are before we actually take action on this.
Well, there's kind of a time ticker here because we're trying to get this launched, so we need to kind of move ahead, but we'd be glad to, we can always make adjustments midstream, but we need to be able to go back there. We're going to meet with the superintendents in a couple of weeks, and I think we need to be able to tell them we passed the resolutions.
Well, we don't even have the correct act number in this resolution that you're asking us to pass. So what I'm suggesting, hey, let's go back and fix this stuff.
She's right. I actually had a question mark by the act number myself because I was researching and
Public Act 859371, page 731.
So again, I mean, I would feel more comfortable, it's just till November, come back and take a look at it, clean up the stuff that's there, and make sure we don't have to come back and fix it again.
Well, the issue is just the number, actually?
No, the issue is that there's been new legislation passed. Nobody seems to know what that new legislation is, and we don't either. All I'm suggesting is, hey, let's hear whatever this is to make sure we're not moving in a direction that we're going to have to come back and fix.
Nick, do you know anything
Nick,
about
I was
this?
just going to say, do you know anything about the legislation having the
We got a foundation?
Yeah.
No, but I can find out.
Well, we had a legislative update this last, a couple of weeks ago when we were in Springfield. That's the reason we're doing the training session in November, is so that we're all aware of whatever the new legislation is that has, that impacts foundations.
Well,
I believe the legislation's about the relationship.
Yeah,
That was my
distance,
understanding.
yeah, we
It's
could
not
always,
that- it's
we can
not
always
really about
change this next month, but I'd like to get started on this. I'd like to see the students be recruited in the high schools and get to know that this is out there and we're ready to go.
And I'm also very much in favor of that, but I'm also very much in favor of doing things right the first time.
My understanding when we were in Springfield was that the legislation is going to clarify the relationship between the board of trustees and the board of the foundation and administration, and that there were some specific community colleges that had overlap in places where there shouldn't be overlap, or there was oversight of something where there shouldn't have been oversight between the
Well, I guess
entities.
we'll know when they give presentations.
Can I raise a different point then? Done with that one?
Yeah, go ahead.
On this resolution where it describes the high schools, it describes the graduating public high school seniors and talks about all the public high school seniors throughout this. And I think we should take the word public out. Because I think if we're talking about community college scholarships for students who are starting at community college, it should not just be our public high school students that could be eligible. It could be our homeschool students. It could be our parochial high school students.
Yeah,
I
I think
don't-
that's a good change.
I don't think we should limit to just public high schools.
No, I think that's a fine change. There's a couple parochial schools. Cristo Rey is one. We're trying to build a stronger relationship with them, to send students, so this could assist us. So
Well,
I
we've
have
had
no problem.
a number of homeschool students too.
Well, that's the other group too. Right. So, no, no problem with dropping that language out.
There's also language in there that references high school foundations. Do we know what schools have foundations?
We're beginning to talk to them
So no?
and find that. So we know a couple of them that do. Mundelein has spoken to us about their foundation.
Lake Forest has one.
Lake Forest has one also, and
Doesn't
then Stevenson's the other one. And there's others being formed, but I think Mundelein and Stevenson and Lake, those two in particular have expressed kind of wanting to work with us. I think we'll have more of that as we get going. But I don't have any problem dropping that out. I think it actually adds clarity.
So we're gonna subsidize parochial students with taxpayer dollars?
No, they're a
This is
CLC
all
student.
about
Yeah.
CLC
CLC.
students that are going to get,
Yeah.
that are gonna come here. So
Won't
it's
be
not,
any subsidy.
it's not when they're in high school that we're gonna be funding anything.
Right.
It's once they get here. It's just who can come to CLC and get these scholarships.
Well, then maybe the verbiage should be something like
Yeah,
Lake
that's bothers
County's,
me about the wording.
College of Lake County's incoming freshmen,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, I like that better. Or incoming
Wow.
students, whatever you want to call it.
If we, I think Jean's point is well taken. If we simply drop the word public, the rest of it still makes sense. It just broadens the scope of it.
But that's what
And it
Bill's
takes into
question
account
is.
takes into account students who might come from through homeschooling or through parochial school.
Does that get at what you were asking, Bill?
No,
I don't think
So
so.
now what's the question?
I think incoming students or incoming freshmen or whatever, so it's clear, these are incoming CLC students. Is that clear?
Was the high school dean's interest in coming?
I don't know.
Is the program
Students
targeted
got college.
specifically at like 18-year-olds or 19-year-olds specifically?
Another point. That's obviously another point.
Because
That is
Non-traditional.
right. No.
would be open to.
Non-traditional, yeah?
Yeah, this says graduating high school seniors, so it could be anybody from 15 to 18, depending on when they started high school.
But why shouldn't it be somebody who's 28?
GED student.
Okay, so the reason for that is, the way we designed the promise, was to work with our superintendents and our high school students in the area. And when we talked about this with you, we said we were going to target who we were aiming at. So this is low-income students from 0 to 3,000 EFC. Now, once we get it established and get it moving, as we expressed this before, we can then look at expanding it to other groups and where it fits in. But we need to get the process started and get it rolling if we're going to make the fall deadline of next year. These students want to be coming in here next year, and FAFSA is open up in another week, I think, now because they moved up the FAFSA dates.
The purpose of this was similar to what Harper was doing, where they went into the high schools and they said, if you meet these criteria during your junior and your senior year, and if you do all the things that we suggest that you do, when you enroll in Harper, we will have some money set aside for you to help you. Isn't that what we're trying to do, this similar
Well, this
type of
is
thing?
really a pilot program.
Well, yeah, it is similar conceptually to the 180 promises around the country, which Harper's is one, but it's very different than theirs because it's our superintendents, as we talked to them, just like the Harper superintendents, wanted something slightly different. And our superintendents wanted us to get started, to put this in place for fall of next year. We told them that's going to be really, really tough, but that's what they wanted. They also wanted it targeted, like we did, at the lowest income students. Harper's doesn't do that. Instead, it sets up criteria when they're freshmen that they have to go through. We, though, think we can achieve some of what Harper's doing, but also target it at where the real needs are for us in terms of other students coming in. So every district's a little different. You know.
Well, it looks like if you just take out the word public in the resolution, in the first paragraph, second paragraph, and fourth paragraph, so that it just says graduating high school seniors, that can include anybody who's homeschooled, anybody who comes from a parochial school, or anybody who comes from a public high school. That's all inclusive. And it doesn't look like there's anything else in there that represents an issue or a problem. And if we're going to get it in for fall, I think you're right, we need to move on it now, in the event that something completely off base that has nothing to do with what we heard in Springfield happens when we hear this presentation, we still can make changes.
Any other questions?
So we're still gonna leave a questionable.
No, you gotta
public
put the right
act.
act in there.
We'll make sure that the
Put the right
correct.
public act in
I
there.
apologize, I didn't see those two question
Yeah.
marks, but we'll make sure that. the correct
I
public
used
act-
language that we've used before, but I wanted to go back and double check it. And so I believe it's correct, but I meant to verify it.
So we will verify that, and we will drop the two
Google
words
it right
public.
now.
Actually,
look it up.
actually, Nick, would you, while you're sitting
All
there,
right,
go ahead and
look,
Google
we're
that after
gonna
we
come
get
back to
that.
Okay? It's still on the table, but we'll come back to it. All right, 7.4 is the resolution